okay, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Here's the scenario, right? You guys got access to site right here. You got access to all of this. You planted. It is you and Brim against the world, right? Where are your thorns? Gone. I think you threw one earlier over here, and then you threw one earlier over here and used them instantly. And what do you guys have now in order to keep them from defusing this spike? You have a flash, right? So you can probably throw it in this wall, help with the peek so that, you know, it makes it easier to peek. You have a Brim ult, right? He clearly knows lineups because he did one earlier, right? So you could kind of calm or ask your Brim, hey, do you have lineups to help with this? But imagine how much easier this entire round would have been had you had either one or two of your thorns still available, right? You could even place one right here. Make it impossible for them to peek you with a short amount of time left. Make it impossible for them to peek you when Brim, you know, mollies right here and ults right here. Those are your win conditions, right? Those are the things that win you a round. And I'm sure you guys still will win this round, but ultimately it will be made much easier if you reserve your utility for the right moments at the right time, right? You want to make sure that you are thinking ahead as much as you can within a round. All right, so in this round, I want you to focus on where you place your utility as a Sentinel and how that impacts your mid and late round ability to actually play the game.
Fuck it, we ball. I'm playing the Sheriff.
Blinding crack. Now we.
Okay, so we've established your utility. You have your rows here, and then you have your wall right here. So that means that all of your stopping power and all of your intel gathering is in this lane right here. And you haven't covered any of this area at all. So just keep that in mind as you see this round progress where people start going into A, how this inability to cover these two areas as a Sentinel right now because of where you place your utility is going to end up screwing you over in the mid to late round because you're going to have to kind of go back and forth between these two areas to make sure that you're covering for the chamber.
Wait.
Ooh, the green and cyan color is actually nice.
Here. Enemy spotted mid. Enemy spotted A. Here. Right between the eyes. Enemy spotted A.
The whole team is there.
Spike down A. One enemy remaining.
I'm like art.
There.
So you see that hesitation, right? This idea that, oh crap, I kind of have to go back over here to make sure that this chamber isn't coming around here and trying to go to B. That's because you set nothing up in B here when you have actual stuff to help with that, right? So you could set up some of your tripwire down here. I mean, granted, you're going to have to detonate that, so it's probably not going to be super useful. But alternatively, you could have set up your wall right here, and then your flash stays over here, and you can kind of pop that intermittently just to get information because you do get that intel that something was hit when you pop that flash. And now you've effectively covered this entire area without having to use all of that in one specific choke point. So that keeps you from having to play this game of, well, like, where should I cover? Where should I go back and forth from? You can just stay here confidently with Brim because you would have a wall or something to tell you that chamber is moving away from A.
He's coming from the other side, I'm pretty sure. Wait, that's probably to fake you. Oh, watch out though.
Spike here. Gun here.
Oh, he's main.
Main, hey man.
Enemy spotted A.
That's bad.
Contact.
Blinding.
So it worked out in this one. Obviously, the chamber went back into main. And so it didn't end up mattering. But again, it keeps you putting your utility in a broad area as a Sentinel. It gives you that ability to really play with your team when you need to in rounds like this. And this isn't always your goal as a Sentinel. I want to be clear. We'll illustrate that in other rounds. But just keep that in mind as you're playing Sentinel, how you want to play the map and what you want to achieve within the construct of that specific round. Whether you want to stay on site and hold it as much as you can, or if you want to make sure that you're giving your team the most flexibility in rotates, in intel, and giving them that freedom to play wherever they want to, knowing that certain areas are covered by your utility.
Last place.
All right, so same utility here this round. Again, not a bad thing. You just have to remember how to play it. And I want you to notice the difference between last round and this round. So this utility isn't bad. I'm not saying it's like a poor usage of utility. I would probably move this up towards the top of the roof here just to make it so that they break their crosshair having to shoot it. So that instead of their crosshairs just going from here to your head, it has to go all the way up here and then all the way back down here to your head, which makes it a lot more difficult for them. But the big difference between last round and this round is not your utility placement. It's not where you're playing. Obviously, you're playing the exact same spot, which you should switch up in general. But that's not the poor thing. Now you have somebody here, right? So you don't need to place a wall or a flash or intel gathering here because you have a partner to play off of and make sure that this area here is completely covered. And so when I say things like you need to use your utility effectively within the construct of a round, you need to constantly be looking at what your teammates are doing, where they're at in the round, and where they start off in the round. So last round, you were all alone here on B. You had to cover all of this, and you had to cover all of this by yourself. And so placing the utility that you had placed in this round, where you have the wall here and the flash here, when you had to cover all of that space, is not the most effective use of your utility as a Sentinel, right? Because you need to now make sure that this is not getting passed and that this area is not getting passed as well. But now that you have somebody here that is actually watching this entire area, this is a good use of your utility because you have somebody to play off of, if that makes sense, right? So again, just keep in mind as you're working through a round where your utility is being placed and how it impacts your team and your ability to keep space on the map as a Sentinel. That is all your entire being is as a Sentinel. It's keeping space and keeping intel on where people are as you're working through a round.
Here.
My bad, that was an awful thing.
Steps out, man. Sounds like backing off, but could be fake.
Yeah, so something I would love to see here a little bit more is instead of you kind of just staying here where you are, is playing off of your Tejo a little bit more. So you notice that your Tejo started over here, watching this area here, and you were just kind of, bunkering down, staying within this belong area. I would love to see you when this Tejo moves from where he was at to watching this area now. I would love to see you come over here and fill that gap, right? So a big part of Valorant and strategic shooters like this is filling the gaps on the team. And you always have to be looking at that as you're playing, especially on a map like Pearl where there are so many gaps, right? You have a potential for, if I'm looking at this just from this side of the minimap, they can come down this way, they can come down this way, they can come in through here and into your spawn, they can come in through here this way into your spawn, they can come in through here this way to your raise on A, and then they can come in through main over here, right? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible avenues for them to get to 2 sites, right? And so what you want to make sure you're doing is filling up those holes wherever you possibly can. And early in the round, you had the Tejo looking this way and he was filling up this gap, right? And that cuts off 2 avenues, right? That Tejo cuts off this avenue and this avenue just by watching that. But now you have 2 people effectively only looking at this area here, and you're not even really looking at the area. You're just kind of sitting there waiting for your utility. But what that does is now that you're both looking in this direction, these 2 avenues are now completely open for the team to possibly exploit. and you want to be feeling that as fast as you can. So the second you see Tejo come around here and work that angle, you need to be jumping down and coming over here. And I could see it in you. You had the thought because you turned around this way as soon as your teammate died. You turned into that direction and said, oh, that area is empty. As soon as Tejo sprinted out, you should have just been coming over here to fill that gap.
Now we wait. Lightning thorns. Rip and tear. Blinding path.
Okay, so I love what you're doing. I don't care for the setup too much as far as where the utility is placed, but this is a really, really important concept for you to understand as a Sentinel specifically, and that is constantly changing your setups, right? So you always want to make sure that the enemy doesn't know where your stuff is. And of course, you can use the same setup in a few different rounds. Like it's not the end of the world if you do, but what you're doing here is perfect, right? Again, I don't care for the setup. We can kind of talk about that in a different time, but the big thing here is that you're not just putting the exact same thing where you put your flash here, you put your wall here, and now the enemy's going to come over here and they're going to tell their team, hey, shoot the flash, bait the wall, move on with their lives. You are completely changing it up and making it so that now they have to, on the fly, within a round, think about how they're going to play around this setup that you have. And they don't even know what that setup is until they get there, right? So I think it's really, really good that you're already doing that, and that's important as a Sentinel to do. As far as the setup is concerned, not a huge fan of this wall because, quite frankly, they can just kind of, okay, I want to walk around it, and they don't really have to interact with that wall super heavily. Not saying that, walking around it is the best move from an attacking perspective, but it is one of those things that it's pretty easy to just not deal with this wall. I would rather see something like, if you're going to put it this deep into sight, I'd rather see something like maybe back here, or even within the actual site. So like from where you're standing to default plant, so that they can't kind of push you into this area here. Wherever you put the wall, it doesn't matter, but just make sure that it is covered end to end. It's not one of these things that's kind of just up here where they can go around it or completely avoid it. I don't necessarily hate the barbed wire. I would maybe space those out a little bit more because they are pretty massive. And then again, the flash, having it kind of up here where it is, not a big fan. I would much rather see that really high up on a wall just to cover as much space as possible and make it much harder for them to shoot out and then still kill somebody. Build a shot. Build up. Yep, there you go.
You're wrong.
That's a good. Never mind.
No,
Go back.
that was alright.
Okay, now you can stay here, right? So you were filling this gap, which is good, and you saw. I would assume you saw that Brim was already over here, and so not a terrible decision to kind of come back like you did. Now that Tejo is dead, absolutely, you stay here. You do not leave this area. You have now moved from intel and gap covering into full-on Sentinel, keep this space for your team mode as they try and come back into site to help you out, right? That's your goal now that you're the only one on site.
Not ready yet. Good hit. Blind and dead.
Just tag and homes.
Thorns activated.
Enemy spotted B.
One enemy remaining.
Okay, solid round, not gonna lie. That Reyna kind of sold, just walking through a smoke like that into your wall. But good use of your utility, right? You timed it well. You timed the flash really, really well, which was great. You timed it kind of off of the Reyna flash, so that Reyna had the false sense of security that going into that site, she was going to have her flash out to flash you. But you kind of Uno reversed her and got her to completely get blinded, hide in that corner, and you could get her pretty quickly. So love to see that. I do love the timing of that first barbed wire there. It was really, really good. I would have probably hit the second one a little bit earlier just to keep that jet from progressing into this back hall here as quickly as she did, and that might have been able to give you the kill, quite frankly, earlier, even though you still ended up getting it. And then just generally good job getting the picks that you got over here as well. I think pretty solid round, but again, just kind of keep in mind some of the things I said. making sure that you're filling in the gaps, making sure that you're keeping the space, and keeping an understanding of what your team is doing within a round so that you know when and where to place your utility.
Too obvious. Last place.
You want to play? Let's play.
So you know there's at least 2 mid, right?
My ult's ready.
You've got your jet and your KO.
Oh, heavy.
Smoke B, but
Spike
Come to
down
mid.
mid.
Come to
And
link
there were
right
2
now.
mid,
friend.
so more than likely they're gonna hit B here.
Oh, my footsteps.
Bring me the arsenal.
Okay, I don't like that ult. Here's why. The effective area that you're actually getting is just this. And that's not good enough for an ult like Vice's. Her ult shines so bright when you're in a retake scenario. And I almost want you to like exclusively use it in retakes. It's okay not to. It's really, really good maybe in like a crunch time scenario where the enemy team has maybe 10, 15 seconds left as well. It kind of puts them in a really, really tough spot because they can't push into a site. But there's 1:13 left on the clock. I guarantee you, before even watching the round play out, that if there's still people in mid and you caught them, or if that there's anybody here in B long or B stairs here rather, that they're just gonna walk away and wait, and then you're probably gonna die. There is no world where with 1:13 seconds left on the clock, any one of these three, even if they were in bronze or iron, like if they were the worst of the worst players, they would not push. Nobody would push into you guys where you guys are moving without their gun. Not even a bot would do that. And so again, I'm not saying that to flame. I'm saying that genuinely because I want you to understand how important this ultimate radius is and how important it is in crunch time scenarios like the last few seconds of a round or retakes or anything like that. You heard one over the right. There's one definitely over there. Okay, you get 1 kill.
One more.
There it is. It's like the easiest thing to call. To be fair, to be totally fair, your Brim's an idiot here. I don't know if you're feud with them or not, but that Brim should have been looking in this direction the second you ulted, just to confirm that nobody was running away so that they could get that easy kill. So I will give you that. The Brim could have easily killed whoever just killed you, which I think was a jet. It should have easily been countered because I guarantee you that jet was just sitting in this little spot right here and the Brim just sold for some reason coming up here into heaven. But it's one of those things that, again, your ult is so important. And using it this early in the round is never going to really benefit you in almost any way, if I'm being totally honest. It's almost never worth it. There it is. I said it, that whoever was in mid and whoever was in here is just going to leave and they're going to come back, right? And that's exactly what happened. The jet, you probably hit the jet, so they left, right? You probably hit whoever was here in mid that just got the kill, and they left. And then what happened? They said, all right, I have my gun now. Here I come. I'm going to start going to get kills. And that's exactly what happened. And now you're both dead over here in mid, and Brim is by themselves.
Blinding trap. Not ready yet. Good hit. Reloading.
I would have knocked him.
It's a good use of your flash to begin with there, just kind of getting people out of this area here.
No missiles away.
Launching thorns. Thorns activated.
It's a good use of your thorns, in my opinion.
Holy smoke! Dim beacon here. Enemy kill.
One enemy remaining.
Okay. This is where I'm going to glaze you for a bit. I want everyone in gold and below to watch this round maybe 50 times. And I want you to recognize that aim is never your problem. It's almost never your problem. I have done so many VOD reviews at this stage where I get people coming to me and they say, hey, I think my aim could use a little bit of work. Can you help me with the gun mechanics? I look at their gun mechanics and I'm like, bro, for your rank, I guarantee you it's not a problem. And same thing goes here. I said it to you in the like VOD review I did a while back where I didn't make a video for it, but your aim's really not an issue. I want everyone that's potentially watching this or looking at this to understand that aim is almost never your issue when you're that low of a rank. It is almost always game sense and team play that is your issue. This is the perfect round to showcase that. You flashed where you should have flashed in order to get access to the site, right? In order to kind of move up with your team. You threw thorns where, you know, you thought it made the most sense to throw them. I probably would have thrown them here if I'm being quite frank, just so that people can't peek you as you're pushing up, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you hit these two disgusting shots, one on this jet over here, and then another one back here where you kind of just flick from here to here instantly and get an instant headshot. I need people to recognize that this round is the perfect reason that I hate when people come to me talking about, oh, my gunplay needs work, I can't aim. It's like, dude, I promise you your aim is fine. You don't need cracked aim or, you know, pro level aim in order to rank up in this game. You need to understand how the game gets played, period. That is almost always the issue. So good work on this round. Your aim is great for a gold. I wouldn't worry about that right now. You're really just working on your game sense as a Sentinel.
Down. On A.
Damn.
Getting close.
They're picking mid.
Yep, mid door. Like our CT side, mid, CT side, mid.
Yeah, they're all mid.
Launching thorn.
So you saw 4. I want to make that clear. You saw 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't know where KO is, to be fair, but you know for a fact that there's 4 people here. You know that somebody is up here towards spawn, and you know that there's at least one here and possibly 2 coming out right here. Your clear move is let's sprint into B and try to take that before all of them can rotate through here, or you all have to fight together.
Thorns are alive.
Someone's in attacker spawn.
Reloading.
Fuck it, let's just hit B. Fuck it.
Bomb buddy out.
Smoke's down. Stim beacon here.
You are powerless.
No good.
Nice.
Spike down.
Spike down B.
My ult's ready.
That's mid. Care link.
Spike planted.
You can still see where you are and give callouts.
One enemy remaining.
He's one.
Reloading.
I know you're not in the round anymore, but I'm just invested at this stage to see if I was right.
You hear him.
Again, the reason I said that earlier is if you have 4 of them here and you had 4 of you here, it's an equal fight. You can try to win out on the trades, right? That to me makes sense. And they were kind of spread out here. You had 1 over here, you had 1 over here, you had 2 over here. It's much easier for you within this one choke point to look in the certain direction and try to get those kills that you need when they don't really have easy access into that choke point. So you either stay where you were and fight, or you sprint as fast as you can and try to single them out as they rush in one by one because of the spread out nature of where they were. And you know, that was the right choice, sprinting into B, trying to take advantage of the fact that more than likely KO is either on B or on A, right? Those were the only 2 options, because you know that there were 4 here, and if they were all 5 here, great, now you have free sight. If they weren't, then he's on one of these. It's a 50-50 coin toss, right? He was on B, he used his ult, you guys traded out, you made sure that you played together, and that was the clear move there. So that's not necessarily something for you, right? That's just something for Valorant in general, is understanding when to take the fight, when not to, and when to kind of make a quick decision mid-round to get to where you need to get to plant. And your team made a good decision there, and you helped out your team. You played really well with the team there.
Well denied.
Get out of my way.
She's mid. They're pushing mid.
Fully smoked.
Send it. Go.
Stim beacon down.
I'm droning it. Careful, Link. Careful.
So there's like a clear difference between you playing Vice on attack and you playing Vice on defense. You clearly feel more comfortable playing this agent on attack. Great use of your ult here, right? It completely eliminates anybody from being able to do anything against you guys as you take sight, which is fantastic. It's a really good use of your ult. I already see you starting to use your utility aggressively to prevent people from, pushing in after the fact. And even in rounds I showed previously, right? Like using your flash proactively, using your trips proactively, using your ult proactively within the construct of attack. You are very clearly more comfortable with somebody like Vice on attack. I don't have a lot of notes on attack. I'm gonna be real. I think you are playing it just fine for gold, and even for, I would say, above gold, like in the plats and diamonds range. You could work on your recall of your flash and where to place it. That I have noticed, right? Like there's been a couple instances where you'll place it somewhere, realize, that's not a good spot, you'll take it away, and then you'll place it somewhere else. Oh, that's not a good spot, I'll take it away. Maybe learn a couple places to really kind of anchor your flashes to and feel more comfortable with. But overall, straight up, I don't have a lot of notes on attack from what I've seen so far. I'll watch the rest of the rounds, but really I think Vice on attack is fine. It's your defense that I think needs help, and the rounds are showing that so far, right? You guys, I think, ended up defense 6-6. I think a lot of that kind of came down to the play that you had and your ability to make plays on defense that you didn't make because of your setups and the way that you played it. It's 10-8 now, and I think that's a testament to how aggressive you're playing your utility on attack, making sure that you're covering the things that you need to cover as a Sentinel here, which I do think Vice plays a little bit more as an aggressive Sentinel when she places her wall down. Everything else is more in the aggressive space, similar to like a deadlock. But yeah, good job so far.
Launching thorns.
One's back.
One's still
Enemy spotted.
Thorns activated. Reload.
One's main.
120 on Jet behind. Behind.
Last player
I
standing.
crouch so much.
One enemy remaining.
Yeah, I mean, you guys end up losing this round. I don't love where you were playing after. I know I just glazed you for a good bit, but here I go with the criticism. I think once you get access to the site, the fact that Reyna peaked where she peaked, in my opinion, is insane. She had a freaking ghost and still peaked you guys while you guys had guns. The balls on that person is insane. Whatever, I guess kudos to that Reyna. If I were VOD reviewing them, I would tell them, why the hell are you peaking in that vicinity to begin with? But hey, it paid off. The risk paid off, I guess. But once you don't get that trade, I do much prefer seeing you kind of push back here if you can. If you can't, I understand, but it is one of those things where like you have the utility to really kind of hold the bomb a good bit. This is just an unfortunate round where you guys you looked a little bit lost once you did get the plant down, all of you, like on the team. And I think you specifically, once you were in that kind of like defensive position, again, exactly what I mentioned earlier, on the offensive, you feel comfortable. Like it seems like you feel kind of comfortable using your utility and trying to get space for the team or help your team get space as much as you can and keep space on the site. It's the once you turn into the defensive that becomes the issue. And effectively, when you're on attack and you plant the bomb, you're on defense now, right? And that's where you're struggling the most, is understanding how to keep space, not necessarily take it. Like you're aggressive when you take the space that you need to, and you're using utility to get that space. You're just not able to switch your brain, I guess, from this offensive mindset to more of a defensive mindset where, okay, we got the space, great, what now? Like, how do I make it so that these avenues for the essentially attacking team, right? Because again, you're on defense if the spike is planted. How do I make it so that these avenues for the attacking team, where they're trying to attack the spike and attack back into sight, how do I make it harder for them, right? Where do I place my utility? Where do I place my flashes? Where do I place my my tripwire, or my barbed wire? How do I time that utility so that it makes it easier for my team to keep access to this site or keep hold of this site, right? I think that's what you've been struggling with. And again, a lot of that comes down to placement of your utility, right? So it's really, really important to know when to be offensive and then when to switch into that defensive. And I talked about some of that earlier, right? Like the placement of your flash and how kind of indecisive you are with it, where you'll place it somewhere and then you'll take it back immediately, and you're not getting value out of it because of that. I think that is kind of hampering your ability to really play the character. And then likewise, you are playing Vice as more of like an initiator, which is not how really she should be played. She is more of an aggressive, I think, Sentinel than most characters can be. But you're pushed a little too far up with your own, body, right? That's the issue. I think you should be using your utility aggressively, but you shouldn't be pushing in aggressively with your jet. You're not the initiator, right? Leave that to somebody like a Tejo, right? That's his goal, is to, create or help create that space with their, in tandem with their duelist. You're really more the type of person that, okay, they've gotten that space, I've helped them with it, maybe by flashing, for example, but now let's keep it, right? Okay, wall here, put a little barbed wire here, I'm putting another one over here, and I'm just gonna sit pretty right over here with my little flash, and I'm gonna flash out, get the information. Great, this wall just went out, now they're separated. Great, I'm gonna use these barbed wires and I'm gonna peek off of it. Like it once you help get the space, you need to immediately switch into that defensive mindset.
No.
3, 2.
Fully smoked.
Flash placed. Not ready yet. Good hit.
Locating
Thanks,
target.
Max.
Taken down.
God damn, that was a shot and a half. Good shot. And also, again, this is what I'm talking about. You're on offense mode, right? So you're playing this like an initiator. I'm not criticizing it. I think it's okay to do that from time to time. Really, your Tejo should be doing a lot more here. But you're using your flash, right? You got a hit on somebody. I don't know who got hit by that, but somebody got hit by it. And then you're pushing in, you're throwing your utility wherever you can. You're about to throw something in this direction. I just want to see you, once you get access to the site and you plant, all right, I'm gonna back out now. I don't need to be here anymore. How do I hold the site for my team? That's your goal, that's your focus. So I'm hopeful that we see that this round, but nice shot, great shot.
One dart.
Tear. Thorns are live. Rip and tear. Thorns activated.
R here.
Wall set.
One's flower.
Okay, so you're halfway there. So you did the physical act of coming back here and trying to help your team, hold space elsewhere to make the hold on site easier, right? You came back here, you placed your wall, you made sure that this is not completely covered, but you use these thorns, I think, a little bit too early and probably in places that really don't get a whole ton of value, right? If you think about this round logically, you got to pick off right here. There could have been somebody back here, totally possible, but realistically, throwing your thorns right here, it's not going to do too much other than maybe prevent them from peeking while you're planting, which, to be fair, totally cool. I think that's fair. But then you threw a thorn over here where nobody could really take advantage of it. You don't even really know if anybody is over here. And there's really not much value that you're gaining from that. I would have much rather seen you do exactly what you just did, right? So you're like 70-75% of the way there. Come back here, you throw your wall down, and then when you're done throwing your wall down, you come over here and maybe just place it right here on the bomb, right? Your goal now is, okay, how can I make it so that it is impossible for us to lose this round? You have a 5v3, right? That is a huge advantage. Let's say all three of these people go down on site. Okay, your Brim and you now, your Brim has ult, and you have your little barbed wire. You can just tell him, hey, on tap of spike, I have my barbed wire down to make it harder for them to leave. Just ult site or ult bomb, we win the game, right? It's super easy. It's those types of things. It's the combos. It's the keeping the space on site, making it impossible for a team to win a round after you've planted, right? You're on defense now. How do you keep that defensive mindset? And how do you make sure that this team that is trying to attack the spike from any avenue possible, you make it literally impossible from a time perspective for them to get this diffusal off?
One secret. Jet's tag.
Flashing.
Close there. Jet teleport on my screen.
Molly.
One secret. Close
Sorry,
secret.
Jet. Sorry, Jet.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, you end up winning the round. Good job. The team kind of held well there. But again, imagine if you didn't even place your barbed wire here and you place it over here instead. You know that this this KO is coming up here. If you placed it here, you could have popped that as soon as you noticed that the jet was moving out this way. You could have popped this to make it so that this KO can't peek your jet, right? Again, it's these little details that in a round, it is, to be fair, really difficult to think about those things, but you really need to start thinking about, as a Sentinel, how do I help my team get and keep the space on the site? And then once we get it, how do I make sure that we can not allow the enemy to come back in, right? My utility is best served in a way where we are not allowing the enemy to retake whatever site they need to retake, because you're on defense at that point, and that's important.
Confirmed kill.
Reloading. Blocking sight. Grenade.
Going out. Beacon here.
Launching thorn.
One suppressed.
This
is how it ends.
Rip and tear.
120 jet.
Thorns
Nice.
activated.
One more is flowers.
Reloading.
Playing post.
Secret and flower.
Okay, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Here's the scenario, right? You guys got access to site right here. You got access to all of this. You planted. It is you and Brim against the world, right? Where are your thorns? Gone. I think you threw one earlier over here, and then you threw one earlier over here and used them instantly. And what do you guys have now in order to keep them from defusing this spike? You have a flash, right? So you can probably throw it in this wall, help with the peek so that, you know, it makes it easier to peek. You have a Brim ult, right? He clearly knows lineups because he did one earlier, right? So you could kind of calm or ask your Brim, hey, do you have lineups to help with this? But imagine how much easier this entire round would have been had you had either one or two of your thorns still available, right? You could even place one right here. Make it impossible for them to peek you with a short amount of time left. Make it impossible for them to peek you when Brim, you know, mollies right here and ults right here. Those are your win conditions, right? Those are the things that win you a round. And I'm sure you guys still will win this round, but ultimately it will be made much easier if you reserve your utility for the right moments at the right time, right? You want to make sure that you are thinking ahead as much as you can within a round. So let's see if you win this round out.
Secret.
Yeah.
Cloud vault.
Flashing. Good hit.
Open up the sky.
My mind.
Molly.
This is great. Wasting a lot of time.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Right. All right. So you guys end up winning, right? Which is completely fair. And like I said, everything I'm saying is probably hindsight, Harry. However, again, it's one of those things that had this round played out any differently, you did not have the utility to help the team. Only Brim did. And that's because you tried your hardest to play this role as more of an initiator on attack and not recognizing that once you get plant down, you're still a Sentinel, my dude. You're still a person that needs to keep space and make it harder for a team to get back on and defuse the spike when they have access to it. That is still your role, right? That is still your job as a Sentinel. So overall, good round. Again, you guys played this, you know, fairly well. Your Brim had all the utility he needed to win the round out, but just continue to keep that in mind. How to properly prevent people from getting access to site on attack when you're on essentially the defense now. I think that's your biggest weakness as a Sentinel.